Good afternoon. This is the Plan Use and Management Committee meeting. I'm Councilmember Weezar. We have with us Marquise Harris-Dawson and Councilmember Mitch Englander. And if we could go through the agenda. And I think this will be fairly quick with just a couple of items. Item number 7, we could receive and file. Items number 4, 5, and 6, we could have those go on consent with no objection. Okay. Item number, we could start off now, I think, unless, yeah, we could start. Okay, item number 1, please.
Sure. Item 1, Councilman, is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Veronica Padilla to the Planning Commission.
Welcome. Is Ms. Padilla here? Welcome, and if you could just state for the committee your interest in serving on this commission and any other relevant information you might want to share with us.
Sure. So thank you for having me, and I'm very honored to have received the nomination. I've been serving on the Area Planning Commission, North Valley, for about little over 5 years now. And I am an urban planner, went to UCLA, so I feel that this is a really good fit. I'm excited to bring the perspective of, environmental justice and just planning too. I'm the executive director of Pacoima Beautiful. Been there for about 5 years. Before that, I was the ED of a economic development nonprofit, so I know the Northeast Valley well. Grew up in Sun Valley, and now live in Sylmar, and so I'm definitely a Valley girl, but excited to be working on these citywide issues, for sure.
Great. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Well, thank you, and thanks for your willingness to serve. And without objection, we'll move this forward to full council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, item number 3. No, item number 3, please.
Sure, Councilman. Item 3 is a report from the LA Board of Police Commissioners. It's their response relative to a motion by then Councilman Labange Corretz, requesting recommendations to regulate party houses.
Thank you. Staff here to present on this item? Staff here on this item? Other committee? Okay. LAPD staff? Yeah. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Anything on this item you'd like to share with us?
Certainly. I'm here as the commanding officer of Hollywood area. My name is Captain Pete Sarconi. The reason I'm here is because we are dealing constantly in Hollywood with a nuisance with party house activity where residential properties are used as event venues and party locations commercially. The current regulations are attempted to be enforced, but we need something, in my opinion, that has substantially more teeth and penalty to keep the activity from occurring.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. And we have one. Yes.
Good morning, or afternoon rather. I lost track of the day. I'm Deputy Chief Beatrice Gramala. I'm the Commanding Officer of Operations West Bureau. I was the captain of Hollywood area for 5 years prior to Captain Zarconi. And since 2006, when I first worked with Councilmember Tom Labange on this issue, we had great concerns all focusing on the issue of public safety. We're not here to target any particular group, but I have to put the public safety issue as paramount, not only for the sake of the community at large, but also for first responders. With the party homes, what we often find out we have as a situation is restrictions to the area due to parking, congestion, the inability for LAPD or LA Fire Department to access emergencies in the hillside areas, which are already very narrow streets, very constricted. Also, when we look at the regulations as they exist, punitive measures such as fines, the fines are often negligible in the eyes of those who are conducting the party homes, because when you make upwards of $70,000, $100,000 a night, a $1,000 fine is something that is considered the price of doing business. So we look forward to working with CD4 and the City Attorney's Office on reevaluating what we currently have on the books and seeing if there is a need to move forward with any amendments to it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one speaker card. Noah Molstein from Council District 5.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Noah Molstein from Councilmember Paul Koretz's office, one of his planning deputies. Things are, I guess, unfolding very rapidly as we speak, but I'm really just here to just kind of reinforce that our office and our district has also been, plagued with a lot of party houses over the years, and something like this, and an ordinance like this to give LAPD the teeth they need to go after some of these large scale commercial entities that take over neighborhoods and just create a public safety nuisance is the exact thing we are in support of, and we just want to go on record saying that I guess whichever way we move today, we're supportive of it, but we hope that we can really adopt the City of Santa Monica's model as a foundation for the City of LA to again go after these commercial entities, these party houses that just really become a nuisance to the community and to quite frankly the resources of the city. I mean, there's a lot of calls that go out. It's draining. We have bigger fish to fry in the city, and if we can have something to just really take care of these party houses, it would be a great thing. Thank you.
Nick Graef, CD4.
Thank you. So on behalf of Councilmember David Rue, our office, and our residents, I'd like to thank the committee and committee chair Jose Huizar for taking up this item. This item was first introduced to council 3 years ago by our predecessor, and since then the issue has only gotten more dire. Homes in our district and others have not only been routinely rented out commercially as event venues, even though they are zoned R1 residential, but in some cases mansions have been built specifically for the purpose of these commercial events. Some neighborhoods, that means constant loud, unruly events each and every weekend, and even occasions of having wild animals such as lions and most recently an elephant, led up neighborhood streets with limited safety precautions for residents or the animals in question. This needs to stop. Currently, the city attorney and the LAPD, as you have heard, don't have the tools to stop it. Right now, LAPD can shut down individual parties. They can even cite and arrest lawbreakers at the parties. But they have no effective tools at getting to the source of the issue, the event organizers or the party owners themselves. Fines and infractions that we could try and get building and safety to enforce would just be seen as similar to a permit. It's a cost of doing business, and they pale in comparison to the tens of thousands of dollars these individuals can make from one night of renting out these venues. That is why our office is advocating, along with the city attorney's office and their prosecutorial division, as well as LAPD, that the committee adopt a recommendation to request the city attorney's office to draft an ordinance modeled after the ordinance enacted in 2012 in Santa Monica that would allow criminal penalties to be brought by LAPD and the city attorney on these individuals who are flouting the spirit of the law, the spirit of community, and treat our current enforcement measures as mere inconveniences barely worth noting. We appreciate your time and consideration to this important matter for our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Terry Kaufman, Macias City Attorney's Office. What we would recommend is, rather than an instruction for City Attorney to draft at this point, is to meet with all the stakeholders, including LADBS, LAPD, Fire, and then our Police General Counsel and Neighborhood Prosecutor attorneys, so that we can look at more closely the Santa Monica ordinance, our current regulations, fines, and try and put together a thoughtful recommendation about what the regulations should actually be to make sure that they have teeth in it. So that would be the request from our office.
Okay, great. If we could do that in conjunction with those agencies and individuals you mentioned, along with the planning department as well. Or did the planning department land use issues?
Well, it
more
depends on how you craft. You know, if you're doing something that's zoning, then the planning department drafts it,
All right.
and then that's one type of regulation. But it depends on
Okay.
and we'd like an opportunity to work with the relevant departments so we can
Okay.
come up with something that
Okay.
works.
So if you could, we'll make that recommendation to ask or request the city attorney to convene those meetings and come back with a report on recommendations on how to move forward.
Okay.
60 days? 60 days?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we'll hopefully see this item with some recommendations in 60 days. All righty. Any objections to that? So ordered. Thank you. Item number 2.
Sure. Item 2, Councilman, is a motion, Weezer-Wesson. It's instructing the planning department to prepare a response to the city controller's audit of its development fees.
Okay. Thank you. As you know, the controller put out a report with some recommendations and issues raised with respect to these fees. We thought it would be our responsibility and good for us to hear from both the controller and the planning department's response and see if this committee could come up with any further direction for us to move forward on this item. So with that, if we could call the controller's office up, please, and to present your findings, please.
Good afternoon. Rick Taguchi, Controller's Office. Our audit report was issued on November 5th, 2015. The primary objectives of the audit were to, first of all, evaluate whether the city is charging development impact fees or DIFs when required by city ordinances and municipal and administrative codes. Secondly, to determine if there are any opportunities to assess additional fees, and lastly, to verify that fees collected are being used to mitigate development impacts. Our audit generally covered activities for the 3-year period from January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2014. Just a little bit of background. Local jurisdictions are authorized by the state to charge DIFs to protect public health, safety, and welfare. The purpose of a DIF is to augment public services in response to increased needs posed by new developments. In the city of LA, DIFs have been used for a variety of reasons, such as public art, fire hydrants, road improvements, freeway ramps, and also traffic detection loops. State law requires that DIFs be linked to an identifiable impact. It also has certain accounting and reporting requirements. Now, the city deposits DIFs into 17 different special revenue funds, and it collects about $4 to $5 million a year. So overall, we found that the city lacked a comprehensive program to impose and monitor diffs. The city has favored an ad hoc approach to monitoring these diffs, and also fees have accumulated in several funds unused, and spending plans have not been developed to use those funds. So some of our key recommendations: first of all, planning management should request city policymakers to appoint a responsible department to regularly assess the potential for new impact fees and monitor and charge existing fees. Secondly, planning management should request city policymakers to establish a comprehensive fee program that can be used to mitigate various impacts on public facilities created by new developments. And lastly, planning management should establish clear policies and procedures based on city attorney's guidance to reduce the risk of noncompliance with any state and local laws.
Thank you. Any questions for the controller? We will now hear from the planning department, and then we'll have the controller available if there are any additional questions. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Jan Zatorsky, Deputy Director, City Planning. Our department did concur with the audit. As part of the audit, we did prepare our own response on October 1st, which agreed with the majority of the findings. We do think the city needs a comprehensive solution to development impact fees. We didn't necessarily agree that the planning department should be that department. We think it should be part of an overall comprehensive capital improvement program, as well as a department that can oversee other departments and has some authority over directing departments on what to do. The audit found several fees in Department of Transportation that might not be spent or are still waiting to be spent, and planning has no authority over transportation. So we are very willing to participate in discussions with policymakers, with the Controller's Office and CAO or any other department to make some recommendations on how we move forward.
Great, thank you. And so if you are in agreement with the recommendations and you believe that this should be managed by a larger comprehensive effort, would the planning department take the lead on that, or who should take the lead to develop that comprehensive approach?
Well, it requires a specialized skill set in some financial and economic analysis, which planning department does not currently have. We could contract that out or work with personnel to develop some types of classifications that would work. The city administrative officer has economic analysis expertise and also manages the city's capital improvement program. I don't know if it's necessarily the department, but if the planning department were to take it on, it would be a large increase to our work program and would require substantial additional resources.
Any questions, comments? Yeah, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a question, because just trying to think about how to explain this to constituents. So what part of assessing and collecting a fee requires deeper understanding than already exists in the planning department?
I think, as the controller explained, you have to develop a nexus, so you have to have nexus studies. The audit found that what is on the books was collected appropriately, and we have been doing that, which is basically allowable. To move forward and raise that amount requires additional analysis.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No. If I could call the controller's office up. You had recommended that the planning department should actually lead the charge on these fee reforms. It should manage a new program. It should do more nexus studies to expand the fees beyond specific plans. So you think the planning department should create the infrastructure to collect these fees, manage them, et cetera. Is that?
Yeah, that is correct, Fair. It's for, excuse me, with Controller's Office. As part of the audit, we also did a benchmarking with other cities and jurisdictions. And the benchmarking result shows that planning is the lead department in other cities and jurisdictions.
Okay. Because obviously some of the issues raised require some long-term, better management practices, and they just can't be fixed by saying we're doing A, B, and C. It really requires some additional staffing and infrastructure, et cetera. And I'm not familiar with what other place in the city may be able to manage these types of fees, or if it exists someplace. For example, there's business license fees. There's a number of other fees that we collect as a city. And I would imagine the controller had already looked at what the city does to collect those fees, who's the most appropriate area. So each department that assesses fees, they do it internally, correct? There is no large entity such as the finance department or anybody else that collects fees.
Yeah, to my understanding, yes, departments are responsible to developing fees related to their services, and generally fees needs to be cost recovery, and that is developed by individual departments.
Okay. And so to get this straight, the planning department, you would agree that if given the proper resources, you should and can manage these fees in collecting and dispersing them as they're supposed to be dispersed, or whatever?
Yeah, I think if there's a plan put together with the appropriate resources, we could certainly spearhead that process.
Okay, okay. Sounds good. Any other questions or comments? So if we could request that if the planning department can come up with a feasibility of the department taking on the centralized role of administering a comprehensive fee program, and what that will look like, what staffing would be necessary, should you not contract it out? It seems to be a vacuum here, but if we just need to see what are the options before us in creating that, and if we were to put it in the planning department, what that will look like, how much would it cost, et cetera. And that may be something that we advocate for in next year's budget, should we move in that direction. We're missing out on millions of dollars, and it's one of those where the few dollars we put up front could help us better collect and manage those fees, and it'll be a huge benefit for the city if we do that. So we could get that plan back to us within 60 days.
Okay,
Is that
we'll be happy to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And also, I understand that there's some discussion right now. The Quimby fee reform, there's been discussions on that for about 2 years. Recently, the mayor announced looking at some additional affordable housing benefits fees as a means of raising funds to construct more affordable housing. In those 60 days, can we hear back from the planning department what it looks like in terms of a timeline when we will be able to hear those items in council? I know that some of us have been involved with the Quimby fee reform for some time now. For 2 years, we've been working on that. We're expecting that to come fairly soon, and we're not sure if that's been put on hold now because of the discussion of the overall affordable housing fee or other fees that may come up. So we just want to see a comprehensive plan in terms of the planning department's perspective on what makes sense to bring before Plum and the city council, and what can and cannot or should not move forward at this time.
Would you like that as a second report?
If we could get that as a second report,
okay,
yes.
Sure.
It's related
for you.
to the fees, and we just...
Right. As you mentioned, we're actively working on the Quimby fee update, as well as we sent a recent report to this committee with the housing department on the affordable housing linkage fee. So we have some proposals for that as well.
Okay, and we'll agendize those in 60 days, okay? Because I feel that we have I've been hearing out there, there's a lot of questions about what is happening with both of these, and it seems like there's 2 tracks going on right now. We just want to make sure we're thinking about this comprehensively.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Welcome, Mr. Cedillo. We are just wrapping up item number 2. We have given direction to the planning department to come back with a plan on how it could create the infrastructure to manage these fees. And secondly, to give us a report on the different fees and reforms on different fees that have been proposed to get a comprehensive overview of how we will hear those in council. So we're ready to wrap up. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. All righty. Thank you very much. So we will note and file the report by the planning department today and the controller's report, correct?
What was before you was the motion that you
We'll
introduced,
note and
Council.
file the motion. No, we'll continue the motion for
Yeah,
60
you may
days and
wanna
get those
just
reports
keep it in
back.
committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that. Okay. All righty. Thank you very much. So ordered. Next item.
Public comment, Council.
Public comment. There's no public comment. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I'm gonna leave this upstairs. Yeah, I haven't seen it. If you wake up with a horse's head in your bed tomorrow, stay away from me.